Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show. Nice little Wednesday night in the NBA draft. Round one went 6-1 on the night, up about 9 units that we made here in one night. Really solid plays here, as this was kind of a weird NBA draft, but we did really well. So jump in that Discord if you're not yet in there. That is the only place that I dished out those plays. Going to be looking at the WNBA here in this video. As I said, it's Wednesday night still, looking at Thursday's little 4-game slate. So pretty robust, actually, after a little break from the Commissioner's Cup. Congrats to the Minnesota Lynx, who pulled that trophy down this year. I'm also going to have that live stream going tomorrow on Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern with Jedi Modai, everybody's favorite, always clamoring for him. So we're going to get him on and talk about the W in all 4 of those games, throw some player props. I got some sides and totals and some best bets in here, as well as all the picks and projections that you need ahead of Thursday. So let's jump right into it. First things first, got to run through the updated record here. Still really solid, 32-22, 9.18 units up. We went 1-1 there on Tuesday in the game, in that championship game with the Liberty and the Lynx in New York. So still feeling really good about it. Only lost about 0.1 units on the night there. Going to be looking to pick some of it up here. I got 4 bets, so let's jump into the first game of the night. Got the Lynx still on the road. They are taking on the Dallas Wings in Dallas, and a couple players still out for this Dallas Wings squad, which is now the worst in the league with the worst record. Only 3 wins on the season, 11 straight losses for this Dallas squad. They're going to be without Maddie Siegrist and Jaylen Brown. Actually, she's a game time decision. Doesn't look like she'll play, but Jaylen Brown not likely to play. Same for Satu Sabali. For the Minnesota Lynx, still without Diamond Miller. As we know, she's been out for a little while. Continues to get closer and closer to coming back, but still not going to be back for this one. Eyeing another maybe week or two in terms of having to stay off of coming off the bench at best by that point, but she's still going to be out for at least another week or so. Looking at how they match up, this Lynx squad still very good on offense and on defense. Now, the Commissioner's Cup didn't count towards any of their stats or towards their record when they beat New York to win it all, but they still have a very solid O rating, 3rd best in the league. Best defense in the league as well, as they've overtaken Connecticut, who struggled a little bit and has 2 losses in a row. We'll talk about them in just a minute, but we know that the Lynx are going to continue to play slowly and that they're not good at rebounding. Just straight up, they have the 3rd worst rebound percentage in the league, which is surprising for a team that has won 6 games in a row now, 7 if you count that win in the championships of the Commissioner's Cup. But everything else, shooting, they take a ton of threes, 2nd best effective field goal percentage because they can hit so many long shots. And then for Dallas, kind of bad everywhere, man. 11th in defensive rating, 9th in offensive rating. So they've just sort of plummeted and have not shown much in the way of being able to stop other teams or their offensive rating getting that up either. As far as pace goes, they're basically middle of the pack, 8th in the league, and then rebounding, much better. That's where they have an advantage over this Lynx team, is the ability to get rebounds. Didn't really work out for the Liberty, who are also a very good rebounding team, but either way, we'll see if Dallas can use that to their advantage because they're not shooting the ball well. Also, 4th worst effective field goal percentage in the league. Not much coming from deep for this squad. Honing in on the Minnesota offense, we know what they want to do. They want to get turnovers, they want to get points off of those turnovers, and they want to hit threes by having really good ball movement, as they're in the top 3 in the league in assist percentage as well. But that's going to be the key here. If you want to stop Minnesota, you got to be able to defend the 3. You have to not turn the ball over. And if you do, you need to get back on defense, as they're going to turn those into points in transition. Dallas does not do those things very well. Now, they've been pretty good limiting threes, especially for a team that is worst in the league. 4th best in terms of limiting attempts from deep and 5th best on the makes. But the turnover percentage, too high for this squad. 2nd highest turnover percentage in the league, which is also why they allow the 2nd most points off of turnovers in the league as well. So not much working for them in that sense, which could be a huge problem in this game versus Minnesota. Let's take a look at that offense for Dallas. They're going to try to bruise down low. That's going to be the key here. And that happens to be where Minnesota is well, we'll call it the weakest. They really are 2nd worst in terms of limiting the opponent's offensive rebound percentage, and that's where Dallas thrives. They are the top offensive rebounding team. They get the most second chance points because they get the most rebounds as well. They are effective at turning those those offensive rebounds, I should say, into points through putbacks as well as kickouts for open jump shots as well, which is obviously a really strong tactic if you can get the board. As far as Minnesota, though, they're just not good at stopping it, man. They give up the most points in the paint. They give up the most, the 8th most, second chance points in the league as well. These are all the areas that the Wings are going to try to dominate you. Mostly putbacks on those second chance points for Dallas. We'll see if Minnesota can stop them in this one, but I do have a best bet from this game. I've actually got two best bets, but I'll kick it off with the side here as I am going to take Dallas to cover. Now, this might go up, so if you want to wait until tomorrow, I don't see very many people betting on Dallas, especially if you just look at the sort of raw numbers from the past couple of games, or I should say past 11 games. But I think the Wings can cover at home against a Minnesota team that should be coming in a little bit on a high, right? It's natural to have a letdown against a team that is the worst in the league after playing one of the best teams in the league just 2 nights ago on the road in New York, winning that game, winning the Commissioner's Cup, right? All that stuff just tends to have a letdown in the next game. So that's where this bet is coming from, somewhat, at least to start, but there's also mismatches on the floor for Dallas, right? We've established that they're going to be a problem down low as they get the 4th most points in the paint. Minnesota rather, is allowing 12th worst, so they're worst in the league, I should say, at allowing points in the paint. That's where Dallas can dominate off second chance points, etc. They're also good enough on defense against the 3 to at least be able to hang with Minnesota and keep them from just getting wide open shots. Now, they do give up a good amount of assists, which could be a problem, but the fact that they're limiting attempts from deep means they're closing out on shooters, and especially with Minnesota, knowing they don't score very often down low, that should be allow them to at least keep this game closer than 11 points, and that's why we're going to take them to cover the 10.5. Also got a couple player props here as I'm fading Tierra McCowan, going under 6.5 boards and under 10.5 points. And shout out my guy Legacy King in the Discord. Should mention that we're getting a lot of these great looks from the folks in the WNBA channel in the Discord. They are absolutely incredible. Really grateful to have as many knowledgeable WNBA fans as we do in there, because we're hitting some pretty nice tickets in the Discord, specifically that W channel as of right now. But I did look more deeply into this one after my guy shouted it out, and I really like it a lot. And he pointed out one of the main reasons is Natasha Howard is back, and I have been tracking that. I really thought her presence would equate to at least one win in the last 3 or 4 games since she's been back. Hasn't been the case, but it has deteriorated McCowan's stats a ton. In the last 3 games, 16.8 minutes, 4.7 points, 2.7 boards. So under comfortably. And I just don't think the books have really caught up to the fact that everything is going down for her right now because of the presence of Natasha Howard, who's actually been getting some pretty good stats and has been averaging around the stats that the books continue to list McCowan at, right? About 7 boards, 11 points per game since she's come back. So it's wild to see them still giving these prop lines to McCowan. She scores 83% of her points in the paint, and that is where the Lynx are specifically right next to the basket. So the Lynx, not great limiting points in the paint overall, but if you get right down into the inside of 5 feet, that's where they're allowing the second fewest points overall, which is very, very helpful for someone like McCowan. Because that's the only place she's scoring from. She's really not taking very many shots outside of that 5 feet area without much of a jumper. So we're going to take her to go under the boards because of the minutes especially, and the plus money that I love, and under the 10.5 points as well, because she just isn't even getting the shots up in the time that she's afforded on the floor. Second game, we got the Connecticut Sun riding a little 2-game losing streak now, and nothing to be ashamed of there. They lost to 2 really good teams in Seattle and the Aces as well. So 2 of the top teams in the league has been the reason they've lost 2 in a row. For the Mystics, it's kind of been the opposite. They've won 2 in a row, both of them against Dallas, though. So not really anything impressive there. And they're still going to be without some key players here. Shakira Austin still out for at least another week or so. Brittany Sykes probably another couple weeks as well. Aaliyah Edwards is questionable, and now we're really talking about them losing down low presence and players because of Shakira Austin's absence. Now Carly Samuelson also suffering an injury, and she'll be out for this one. However, one of the best players in the league might be out for Connecticut in Alyssa Thomas. So watch out for that, because that's huge if she can't play. I still think the Sun are able to handle business because there's so many injuries on the other side of the ball as well. But Alyssa Thomas, like I said, one of the top players in the league, a guaranteed all-star here. And so for her to be missing time could be huge. She's a game time decision still, so we won't know right up until tip. I don't have a bet on a side in this game, but I do have something else here for you, which I'll get to after we take a quick look at the projections here, because the Sun have advantages all over the floor. And that's obvious. You've got one of the best teams in the league versus one of the bottom feeders in the Mystics, who've looked a little bit better in the last couple weeks after starting the season like 0-13, but still not really on par with the Sun here, who have the 4th best offensive rating, but the 2nd best D rating. We know they want to play slowly, and that they are the best rebounding team in the league as well. Not a great shooting team, and that's kind of been their downfall in the last couple games, has been their inability to make jump shots just as much as anything. And that's something to watch going forward as we get close to the break, because if you can't score with some of these teams that they are going to have to inevitably face, such as the Liberty and the Aces as well, then they could be in trouble at that point, because if you can't outscore them, you have to really rely on being able to shut them down entirely. As good as this defense is, that's easier said than done. For the Mystics, gotten a lot better on defense. We'll give them some credit there. Up to about 6th in pace, which is where they stay on the season, fluctuating in that range. But the worst rebounding team in the league. That's where the Sun are really going to have an edge here, is their ability to dominate down low, some second chance points, and things like that. We'll get into that right now, actually, where we talk about this Sun offense, because the points off of turnovers are huge. The second chance points are huge. Points in the paint are going to be pretty huge. And the free throw rate is really the main thing. So the reason that we like the Sun to win this game, obviously as big favorites, not really like a shocking take, but the reasoning behind it is that they force turnovers and score off of them. Mystics are bad at that. And they go to the free throw line the most in the league. Mystics give up the most free throws. So down low is going to be a huge problem for Washington, especially if they don't have Aaliyah Edwards down there to help them out, who has had a really good season for such a young player, but is crucial for them down low, I should say, but is even more crucial because of the fact that they don't have Shakira Austin in. Even Brittany Sykes has been helpful when she's in there getting some boards. So if that is the case here, where we don't have Aaliyah Edwards, going to be a really long night for Washington. As far as what Washington wants to do and do well, Connecticut limits it very well themselves. They are first in limiting points off of turnovers. They're first in limiting three-point attempts and three-point makes. That's the way that Washington has won the few games that they have won this season, making a lot of threes, getting some points off of turnovers, and getting out into the fast break. 4th most points off of turnovers, 4th most three-point attempts, and the 3rd most three-point makes. And those makes are key, obviously, because that's how they've won, is actually outscoring in the wins that they have this season. They have about 4 more three-pointers made than their opponent. Don't know that that's going to be the case against Connecticut, even at home in DC. But I don't have a side or a total for this one. In fact, my favorite bet of the night is Brianna Jones, under 19.5 points and rebounds. I want to take the points, rebounds, and assists as well, but we don't have that except for on Prize Picks. So I'm not giving it out there. I did play it on Prize Picks because I have access to them. But if you don't, then either way, I still think the PR is a good under. We should get a PRA number for her tomorrow, but it might not come until Alyssa Thomas is out, right? And I don't think that Brianna Jones is going to get a dimes or assists because Alyssa Thomas is not in, and AT is a dimer, right? Like, we know that she's averaging about 8.5 assists on the season, and in that range, and that she's one of the best passers in the league, especially with her height, able to pass over defenses. But I would say that Alyssa Thomas's absence is really crucial for Brianna Jones' ability to score, because Brianna Jones scores like 76% of her buckets off of assisted field goals, right? She's not doing anything down low by taking people one-on-one. She's getting put into really advantageous situations by the really good ball handlers and facilitators like AT, like Tyasha Harris as well, even Dejanay Carrington. These are players that really can drive and create for someone like Brianna Jones, who finds herself getting a lot of easy buckets right next to the basket because of the great athletes and wing players that the other team needs to collapse upon when they get into the lane, right? So without AT in there, their best passer and best playmaker, really don't like Brianna Jones to get the points. We put the boards in there as well, because even though Washington has been a bad rebounding team, they've gotten better. If Aaliyah Edwards is not in, you might want to stick to just the points, but with the minus 118, I still think that's a really good edge to take under for Jones's PR combined. Quick reminder about Outlier. Have not let you guys know about that yet. Outlier.bet, you get 7 days free if you click the link in the description of the video. Nice and easy for you to go ahead and be able to get your own account there. At least test it out. See how you like it over the summertime. It's huge for all sports, honestly. They're doing a great job and making advances to the site pretty much every day and week. So I would definitely check that out for free. Also, a quick reminder about the Discord. Told you about that, but the link is in the description of the video as well. So make sure you check that out, because that is where you'll get the early looks and you'll get some of the extra angles that we're providing here from a lot of the folks in there. A couple people even have their own channels at this point, since others were clamoring for their bets. So really smart folks in there. I would check that out right now. Still free to get into that Discord. Third game we got on the slate here. We got the Aces in Chicago taking on the Sky. Couple pretty notable injuries still for the Sky here. Elizabeth Williams is still out, and Diamond DeShields is questionable, seems to be leaning towards out as well. She's missed a few games now in a row. Kirsten Bell is back. Don't expect her to get very many minutes, but it's nice to have another backup big who can give you about 11 to 15 minutes, give Asia Wilson a little bit extra rest when she needs it. And she might, because Angel Reese has been playing incredible, and that's going to be a really, really fun matchup in this game. Diving into the matchup, Aces, interestingly, have not done that much super well. They have the second best offensive rating in the league, which is really helpful for them because that defense has not come around yet this season. Still fourth worst in terms of defensive rating. They are playing at the fastest pace, which is why they've also given up some buckets in transition. But the rebounding is also something that you would think would get a little bit better. Still going to be in the top 5, I would imagine, by the end of the season. Right now, 6th best rebound percentage for this squad, but also very good shooting, right? They're getting really good shots, getting to the free throw line, but also hitting a ton of threes. Kelsey Plum having a pretty good shooting year, giving them the 3rd best effective field goal percentage in the league. And for the Sky, I cannot believe how bad their record is, to be honest with you. They're 2nd worst in the league right now, but they do a lot of stuff really well. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second, but the 7th best offensive rating, middle of the pack, 5th best defensive rating, still nice that it's top 5, 4th in pace, so they are playing fast. This one does seem like it's going to have some points in it. The rebound percentage, not that good, and the shooting, not that good for this Chicago team. 2nd worst effective field goal percentage, 7th best rebound percentage. So a lot of this indicates that they're still middle of the pack. Look at this Chicago Sky offense. I mean, they're top 3 or 4 in some really key categories. 3rd in points off a turnover, 4th second chance points, 3rd fast break, and 3rd in paint points, right? So they're doing everything that you would think would lead to having a much better record. Makes it pretty weird that they're not much better so far in terms of their success as a team. The Aces, they do limit these things also pretty well. So it's actually surprising that the Aces defensive rating is so bad when they're so good in some key areas like these stats right here. So we'll definitely keep an eye on like how those matchups down low, how many points and turnovers, points off of turnovers the Sky are able to get off of Aces turnovers. All things that I definitely want to watch when I'm watching this game tomorrow. But it's a really interesting sort of dynamic between these two teams. As far as the Aces go, you know they're going to want to shoot threes. You know they're going to want to keep the pace up and get those transition buckets. So it's going to be huge that the Sky are able to get back and that they're able to limit threes. In fact, they do a pretty good job. Like, I lean towards the Sky in this game, to be honest with you, and their ability to limit what LV wants to do enough that they can keep it close and then also score and take advantage of some of these Aces' weaknesses. Now, Chelsea Gray is back for Vegas, which is huge because she's definitely one of the top point guards in the league and has missed a lot of this season. So they're starting to get back into a groove here, have won 2 in a row. And it's the main reason that I'm a little bit weary of just betting on the home side here based on these stats. It's because I think the Aces are going to start to bring some of that championship stuff here as we get close to the middle of the season. This is when they're going to start to turn it on, I believe. But I do have a bet here. It's a player prop, and I'm going under for someone that I've been a huge fan of all season so far, and that's Angel Reese. Absolutely chewing glass. This girl is just dominating the boards, especially for a rook, all the way up at 11.5 for her rebounding prop. And I actually feel much more comfortable going under for her points prop. 14.5 is her points prop here. I'm going under that for -110. This thing's been as low as 8.5 this season. She's had some really good games for sure, and should probably be at about 11 or even 12.5 for a majority of this season, especially when she plays teams that aren't very good down low. That is not one of those teams, though, here against Las Vegas. She's gone under this number in 11 to 15 games. And though she's been very hot, she's been hitting shots, especially in the last 2 games where she's gone over both of these last 2. She's been shooting at like a 90% clip, like 85%. So it's not something that I want to bet on continuing to happen. Some negative and normal regression should be coming for her averages. And I'm going to take it to be in this game because the Aces are number 1 defending field goals attempts inside of 5 feet, right? They give up the fewest makes from there. And that is going to be where you see Angels take and score most of her points. They also limit the way that she gets those points very close to the basket. No shocker that when you're scoring within 5 feet of the basket, you're probably getting a lot of putbacks on second chance points, as well as hitting some post-up moves to get those layups and little baby hooks. But she's going to be going up against Asia. It's going to be a really fun matchup, but I do think the Rook is about to get a little bit of a lesson of what it's like to be a pro right now. And final game here, I don't have any bets for the Fever or the Storm. I do think the Storm at -8 is still a pretty good number. I'll be putting that in the Discord as soon as I feel comfortable enough to hit it. I do want to see a little bit of this market movement and see what others are thinking, as there has not been that much action on the W, especially because we had the NBA draft on Wednesday night. Everybody was really focused on that. There's some really good bets. As I mentioned, I made about 9 units on it, so a really freaking good night in the NBA draft there. But as far as this one goes, the matchup is highly favoring Seattle, right? And the Fever, if you want to dive into more of these stats for them, they really don't do anything that well, I'll be honest with y'all. So I prefer the Storm here at -8. Their ability to defend, get points off of turnovers, and get into transition, right, with that second fastest pace. That's going to be huge. I don't think the Fever are going to be able to hang with them. I'm really just convincing myself of putting that bet in right now. So that's a very strong lean that I have. It'll be up in the Discord probably shortly, to be honest with you. And that is all the time that I have for you guys in this one. Reminder to check out outlier.bet. Get in the description of the video. That is where you can get the outlier.bet link. So you can go ahead and get 7 free days using one of the best, if not the best, honestly, sports betting research tool that is out there right now. I would also throw out the Discord once more. Link is in the description. Go ahead and jump in there so you can get all of these looks and plays on time, as well as get the help of the others in there who are doing a great job as well with me in that Discord. So best of luck on these bets on Thursday. I'll see you at 4 p.m. for that live stream with Jedi Modai as we get back into these bets. You guys bring your bets, jump in the comments, and we'll go over all that stuff together. Until I see you then, happy betting.